that's one of the really biggest perks when you start farming in an ecological context is that life. And we want life on the farm. The more life, the more vibrancy there is here, the better the whole system works. Comparatively, when you go by somebody's place that's set stocking, well, there's not a ground nesting bird out there because there is no grass. There is no place to have a nest. I'm Andrew with Cedar Mesa Ranch.
And I'm Kendra.
We raise Navajo Churro sheep, Spanish goats, and Aberdeen Angus cattle. Our friends we've tried to encourage them to graze this way, and they say, oh, I just couldn't imagine having to move the herd every day. And I think their vision of moving the animals is you have to saddle a bunch of horses, get out the four-wheelers, have this big, this
Big to do.
Yeah, and it's like, it's so easy. And you'll see in a minute when we move the animals to the next paddock just how easy it is.
And it's really intimate, I get to be out in my pasture seeing my grass every day. I get to see the animals every day. People are so motivated to go move their side rolls and their irrigation, every day, twice a day. It's just doing the same thing, but with the animals instead.
Well,
eventually we're going to have less irrigating to do. So our water holding capacity is going to be so much better.
And even those same folks, they say, oh, I couldn't imagine spending that time moving the animals every day, but they spend weeks of their summer on a tractor. They spend a bunch of time and money on fertilizer, where I'd rather be out here with the animals. That's why we wanted to raise animals, was that interaction.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 15-minute a day commitment, tops. And we move twice a day, sometimes once a day, sometimes every other day. It just kind of depends on the forage that we have, the paddocks that we're in.
And a lot of it comes with time and experience. When we first started, we always were hauling water to the paddocks, and then all of a sudden we went, wait a minute, we've got mainline irrigation infrastructure. Why are we hauling water? So we hooked up a hose, rigged it up, our tank's on a float, and they're taken care of. Now once our irrigation season ends, we'll start hauling water again, but we're adding that water to the land. It's not like it's a waste. It's things that maybe differentiate the way we graze compared to maybe a mob grazer or somebody. We want as much variety as possible. It is really important that sometimes this will go to seed, sometimes it doesn't. Whereas some grazing practices are like always keep it vegetative, always keep them moving. If it's getting ahead of you, you need to speed up. You need to. Whereas we're kind of a little more dynamic in the fact that, hey, it's okay if we skip a spot. I mean, the last side of the farm, we said, you know what, we're just going to go ahead, jump ahead to this field because it was getting ready. And so we left a big patch that it's going to go to seed. It's going to be, it's going to be different than the stuff that was grazed near it.
And it just allows some of that habitat for, we have tons of birds, different,
Lots
we
of
have
ground
lots
nesting birds.
of pheasants, and just different, and they kind of find this as a haven that they can come to, and they don't have to worry about getting mowed over by a swather or...
I think that's one of the really biggest perks when you start farming in an ecological context. Is that life, and we want life on the farm. The more life, the more vibrancy there is here, the better the whole system works. Comparatively, when you go by somebody's place that's set stocking, well, there's not a ground nesting bird out there because there is no grass. There is no place to have a nest. And same with haying. Yes, there might be somewhere for that bird to have a nest, but then here comes that swather. Bird's probably going to get it, nest's probably going to get it, and then what was that worth? So we're really proud of the fact that we have more ecology happening than probably most farms within a big radius. And it shows in the winter. The deer hang out here. They know where the good feed is. So
yeah, and we just know we have to have enough to share, so we don't get too worked up about them hanging out.
This will really show the differentiation of where we've grazed.
Yeah, this has all been grazed.
To what is ahead of us.
You can kind of see our line. It was a little crooked right here because we had a little long kind of paddock. But
a lot of alfalfa. So many people are like terribly afraid of grazing alfalfa
with their sheep.
Well, or even cattle.
Yeah.
I mean, we where the cattle were just at was a lot of alfalfa, and we've gotten along really well with it. I think a big part of it is when you're constantly moving, those animals have the ability to select and balance their diet the way they need to. and so they don't have issues. You know, there's all these plants have various compounds. They have alkaloids, they have tannins. The animals know how they need to balance those in order to keep themselves healthy. And so by providing them a fresh buffet, that's how I always joke with people, like, if you and I went to the same buffet and they never refreshed it, by the last, like 30 days in, the stuff that's there, we really didn't want it on the first day, and now we really don't want to eat it now. But if you go in and it's a fresh buffet, you might sample a couple things. You might see what that other flavor is that you haven't tried before, and it usually is okay, and especially if you're eating something you're more familiar with. That variety is really important.
And we really like to have the even utilization. A lot of times if you have animals on a big paddock, a big area, they're just going to cherry pick, and they're just going to pick what they like, and they're going to leave a lot of stuff standing, and then that's the stuff that's going to be what's left, and all those varieties that they like are going to be gone. They're going to, graze themselves out, basically. And so, this is very even utilization, but the next paddock may have something totally different that they can use, and so they're within 1 or 2 paddocks are really getting a big variety.
And that kind of ties in too with like I was saying about where we'll skip parts of our farm, or just if it seems right to jump ahead or lag behind sometimes, we're kind of creating a mosaic in a way that there is no single place on the farm that resembles any other place, and that adds to that resiliency that if we did make a mistake by we stayed in a paddock too long. Well, the good news is it was only a 1/4 acre. It's not 100 acres, and we go, oh no, we're out of feed. That spot can heal. We could pass it the next time we go by. We could, we have a lot of that flexibility to really listen to the land and observe. I think observation is really the foundation for the way we farm, watching the animals, watching the plants. Great thing that we've got in this field specifically is we've got a pretty high amount of plantain. That's this plant here. This is a buckhorn plantain. It's this really long leaf. It has a lot of medicinal properties. If you go into old herbalist books, it talks about kind of antibiotic-like properties. The animals absolutely love it. It's a really important plant to us. So many people see it as a weed, but I absolutely love it. We've also got this red clover here. That's always choice stuff. The alfalfa is great. Now one of the really interesting things about the ecosystem we're in, this here is bindweed growing up a pubescent wheatgrass. This is the only vine that we have in our ecosystem, and so I am a huge bindweed advocate. You see it grows up the plant, and so it's kind of a second layer of forage that it was free. I didn't even have to plant that; it just showed up, and it's amazing feed. We've actually both of these plants are ones that I'm not afraid to eat the leaves. They're really, really delicious, and the animals can't be wrong. This over here, we've got sandfoin. It's a legume. It's a really beautiful plant. We don't have as much of it coming in this field as I wish we did. I think it's a little more sensitive during the establishment period than some of these other legumes. So we do have some, and I'm glad to see it.
And what's crazy, I'm sure it can come through for people, the viewers, is the amount of insect noise here is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost drowning your voice out.
That's one of the parts that we really love, is that amount of noise from the insect life. Yeah, it's incredible. It's really important.
Fence is strong enough to hold goats too, even.
Oh yeah. Yeah, these are our tools of the trade. This is the Premier Electrostop, 42 foot high, 12 foot spacing. And then this is our charger. This is the most important thing you can have if you're going to do electric fence. Good charger.
You can get these all at Premier supplies.
Premier. Yep, they make what we need to have sheep and goats successfully. They're actually sheep people. They have, the founders of the company have sheep, and so they know what it takes to keep sheep and goats in. And so, we started off with, just the stuff you buy at your local feed store or whatever. And we had goats getting out, sheep getting out all the time. Bad charger, just didn't have enough oomph. And so we upgraded, haven't had a problem since then. But yeah, couldn't do it without these tools. One of our biggest challenges is trying to get, you know, all of this tall feed off the fence so that it actually has charge. But that's an all right problem to have, in our opinion. In our 6 years of doing this together, we have messed up and had to try new things countless times before we actually came up with the system that worked for us, and it's still always changing and always progressing. So.
Well, and we've made great deals, we've made bad deals, we've made decisions that were really poor, and we've made ones that were really great. But I think that's a big part of the resiliency of a farm, if you're trying to frame it that way, if you want your farm to be resilient, and as a resilient people. I think you have to realize that not every day is gonna be great.
And we're really proud of raising resilient animals. That's why we picked, you know, the sheep and the goats and the beef that we have. But you have to be just as resilient to make it, because it's not an easy, you know, thing to do. But it's been worth it for us. No matter how many times we've screwed up and made a bad decision, we always get up the next day and, you know, regroup and think about how we can do better.
One of the biggest cornerstones for us in our meat business is we really don't like slaughtering animals that don't have a freezer to go to. We are really big on direct sales, and we're pre-selling those animals. We want to know that when it's harvested, it's going to someone, it's going to be consumed. We're not in the storage business.
You know, and we've tried that. We've tried like slaughtering animals and storing them and selling them, and we got it done, but it was really hard, and it just, you know, I want that product going to the consumer as fresh as possible. That way they can, you know, have it at the highest quality. And, you know, direct local word-to-mouth sales are really our biggest thing. We've pretty well gotten off most of social media. Just isn't for us. We do a little bit on Instagram, and I have an Etsy shop for my wool that's been, you know, monumental for our wool sales. You know, we did the farmers markets and we loved them, but at the same time it was just too much work for us, too much of a commitment. So we moved all of that online, and I think we've sold wool to
coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Not every state, but gosh, it's going to be any time now. I bet we're going to have every state that's got our wool. And I just love that we're getting that product into the hands of people that appreciate it. And that's, you know, I don't have to convince anyone to buy it. They want to because they know it's quality and they know what they want to do with it. And I think that's when we started the business. We really were trying to, you know, not talk people into buying it, but it's just, I'm not a salesman. It was never my strength. And it was just, that was a really challenging part for us. And so as we've, you know, our name's gotten out there and people know who we are, the product just sells, and that takes time.
It's quality enough that it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the people that we sell meat to go, whoa, like, there's flavor. They're shocked that you know, how much, you know, and we credit a lot of that to the land and the way we graze, you know, because there is such a floral variety in their grazing, and a lot of medicinal plants. But even on the wool side, you get it and you go, oh wow, this is good.
It's
okay,
clean.
I need more. It's
clean. You know, there's not a lot of veg matter in the wool, which is what a lot of people struggle with, and it all comes back to how we graze.
Yeah, this really is one of the driest years that we've certainly seen.
I mean, we've even asked some of the old timers that have been here, you know, have you seen a year this dry? No. You know, that's really saying something.
And by grazing the way we do,
thinking in whole pictures, not just, you know, individual pieces.
We're able to, I think one of the biggest components of this is we always have feed in front of the animals. So many people, you know, 2 months ago they were panicked, they were out of feed, and it's like, well, the growing season's just barely begun. What? Wait a minute, how could you be out? But they're not managing their forage in a way that provides for it. Also, by practicing the grazing that we do, every time we travel over a piece of ground, we're putting all of that matter back into the earth. It's not being exploited off the farm.
We're trampling the grass that they don't eat back down on the soil, you know, that way it can decompose quicker. We're dropping all their manure, all their pee is just going down into the soil, feeding the microbes, you know, creating more carbon.
And we've really seen, I think one of the coolest things is I've saved screenshots from Google Earth, other aerial photography, and the farm has gotten greener over the years that we've been implementing this. We've got spots that used to be dry and not hold much water, and now they're holding more water progressively. And every time we graze over something, it comes back quicker, it comes back darker green because of that concentration of manure.
And you don't have your animals spread out across the whole farm all at once. You know, we're generally only grazing about 1% of our land and our grass, and they're concentrated. And so all those benefits are concentrated, and we're doing it a little bit at a time across the whole farm. And it's allowing, that diversity to stick around. You don't have, cherry picking going on where animals are just picking their favorite species over and over again, and then they're never getting a chance to, get up and get a good root system in the ground. And that's like, the diversity is extremely important to us because of that medicinal. I think it really comes through in the flavor of the meat, which is huge. And then we have this much grass in a drought year like this. And not everywhere on the farm looks like this, but it's it's a progressive thing where we're our driest spots are. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen that grass here in
And this where
ever.
we're standing was grazed about 60 days ago, and it's regrown substantially.
Yep. Well, thanks for watching. If you want to find any of our wool products, you can see our Etsy shop at Cedar Mesa Weavings or our Instagram at Cedar Mesa Ranch and at Cedar Mesa Weavings.